Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, thank you so much for stopping by. In the last video, we took 3 little golden book signatures and sewed them into what I call a spine strip. This is a 3-inch by 8-inch piece of cardstock that is lined with Tyvek. Just glued on a piece of Tyvek, and you can see all of that in the previous video. I'll link it below. Today I'm going to show you how I attach the spine to the cover. And I have a few pieces that I set aside. So I'm going to take those out and set those aside. The reason that I have the 3-inch spine is because I want to have 1/2 inch that I can cover up with either the front cover or the back cover. And then I want 1/2 inch in between the end of the cover and the signature. So same back here. That's why I created a 3-inch strip of paper, because I want 1/2 inch, another 1/2 inch, my signatures, and then the same thing on the other side. I hope that makes sense. When you attach your cover to the spine piece, you can do that either inside or outside of the spine. So essentially, when you have your cover, the cardstock can go on top of or underneath. Either way, you're going to use that first 1/2 inch score mark as your guide. And I have been putting them inside and with great success, but I think I like having them outside, because then from the outside, when the book is closed, it looks a little more seamless. That's just my opinion. You can do it either way. The process that I'm going to use right now works either way. First, I'm going to glue these spines on. You can do that with any glue that you are confident in. The strength of this spine piece is going to be from the Tyvek that we already glued onto that cardstock. We did that before we sewed through the signatures, or sewed on the signatures to the spine. For this, I'm going to be using art glitter glue. I'm going to flip it this way, just because that's easiest for me. I'm going to make sure I understand where that fold is, and I am going to apply glue all the way up to that score line. You may not be able to see it very well on camera. That was a little too much there. Here we go. This is just art glitter glue in a little bottle that I like to use. You don't have to use a ton of art glitter glue, and that is just easy for me to maneuver. So now I'm just going to lay the cover into that fold in the spine, and then I'm going to open it up this way and hold down that glue. I'm going to check it just to make sure it's still kind of aligned there. You can see here that my Tyvek is not glued all the way to the end to that piece of cardstock. So that's why that looks like it's coming up. So you can just hold on to this for a second. You can lay it out, press it down. Now that we have it glued in the correct place and we confirm that it looks about even, just going to put a little bit more glue under here and hold that. The glue really is just part of this process because one of my favorite tools to use in the craft room is a long reach stapler. And this is going to be what actually holds this book together. I am going to move everything out of the way. You can do this from the front or the back. I like to be able to see where this overlap is because essentially I'm going to need to staple in this little section that's about 1/2 inch wide between where the spine and the cover overlap. And I'm just going to put a number of staples. All right, there we have it. If your staples stick up, you might want to press them down on the back. Usually I just do that with the end of pliers or the end of my scissors or a bone folder, whatever you've got laying around. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Make sure that I understand where my crease is. Grab my glue and my back cover. Lean the cover into that crease. Open it up. Smash it down a little bit. And then as the glue is drying, just kind of flip it back and forth, close it, make sure it is generally aligned. And once it is, just grab the stapler, do the whole thing again. Going just a little faster than usual. Gonna staple on one end and then across on the other end. Then I usually do one in the middle, one on top, or one here, and one here. And there it is. At this point, you can take a 3" by 8" piece of designer cardstock and glue it over this piece. And you can also use fabric. I'm going to be using fabric today. Let's see. I've got this Tim Holtz fabric. I thought it matched pretty well. It is part of the Christmas line, and it sort of matches this inside cover page. If you're interested in getting kind of an exact cut, then you can use the dimension that we used for the spine piece, 3" by 8". When I look, I don't know if you can see that there's a fold here, and that fold is just beyond 8". So I'm probably going to cut it here and then cut a 3" section. If you are interested in getting very precise markings, I suggest probably some kind of quilting or sewing tools. But if you don't have those, a T-square generally will work well. To get a straight line down, you of course have to decide what your placement is here. And I use one of these chalk markers. So this is one that has the chalk in the barrel, and you just draw a line, and then and then you can just wipe it away. But what I'm going to do is cut a little wider than 3". So my 3" spine piece here, I'm probably going to cut 3.5" just to have some wiggle room. Can always cut it again later. And I am going to go ahead and cut here. Let's see how wide that is. So I found a mark at about 3¼ I'm just going to make a mark here. And I'm just going to tear it. Okay. The edge of this will be covered up eventually. So now that I have this, all I have to do is glue it down. If you want to cut at the top or bottom at this point, you can certainly do that. I will, let's see, I think I'm gonna even this out just a little bit. It just happens that this has the writing on it, so I can use that sort of as a gauge. Then want to make sure that I cover up this spine piece with the fabric. I ended up cutting this fabric piece so it is just over the 3 inches in width. Of course, we're going to be looking more often at the front cover. So I want to kind of take my time to align it. This can, you know, definitely be not as precise. It is a junk journal. But I just kind of want to look at how it's going to lay, and then I am going to glue it down. I use art glitter glue for fabric to paper. You can use like a multimedia or whatever glue is your choice, is your favorite. This edge can stay just like this with just this piece covered, but eventually I'll come in and put either a piece of trim or lace or something here as well, just to cover up this seam. I'm just going to work my way down. Oop. All right, that's it for that. In our next installment of Christmas Day Cheer, we are going to add some of the pre-made embellishments that I've already created for my Christmas Junk Journal series, And also take some time to line the inside spine. We're basically just going to cover up these staples and make it look a little more seamless. And we can do that with this cloth, or we could do it with paper or trim or whatever you got lying around. So make sure you hit subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you'll know when that video is completed and ready for you to watch. Thanks so much. I'll see you in the next one.